$5 to help plant flags to support the fellowship's work of saving and rebuilding lives in Israel and wherever God's people are in need. To learn more, visit ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Gold prices soar to record highs.
The going price for New York spot gold has climbed to almost $3,900 per troy ounce. Gold futures have increased more than 45% since the start of 2025. Interest in buying metals such as gold typically spikes when investors become anxious, but gold can be volatile. The Commodity Futures Trade Commission has warned people to be wary, saying if you choose to invest in gold, you should educate yourself on safe trading practices and be cautious of potential scams. I'm Mike Hempen.
If you are familiar with that sound, you may have been among the earliest users of the Internet. AOL, formerly America Online, confirming it has now ended its dial-up service. Wall Street shrugging off the government shutdown. The Dow was up 43 points. The Bell. With business, I'm Bob Agnew.
News and analysis at townhall.com.
On Point weather on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with a low temperature dipping down to 56. Tomorrow, absolutely gorgeous. Sunshine all day long to go with a high temperature of 77. More the same with clear skies and sunshine on Friday. The high is 78. The weekend not as nice. Saturday we're cloudy all day. 80 is our high. And Sunday we can expect some afternoon showers with clouds throughout the day. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
This is The Point. Make thepointradio.com.
The Point. The Point.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
Well, a pleasant good Wednesday and happy October as we welcome you inside Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network all across the state of South Carolina. Big voice guy got 50% of that correct. Phil Kornblut out the next two nights, celebrating a Jewish holiday, so we wish Phil well. He celebrated today by going to play golf, he tells me, so it's off to a good start on just a crystal clear, fabulous day across the state of South Carolina. Chris Bergen here in the PD. We've got Josh Cohen, the plumber, back home in our Columbia studios, ready to line you up on the phone lines at 888-898-2525. Again, 888-898-2525. That's the Sports Talk South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. And anytime that Corn is out, we go to the bullpen, and somewhat appropriate. Here as the Major League Baseball postseason has gotten underway, Matt Smith joins us in Georgetown. We'll get to Smitty here in just a quick second. Coming up on the program tonight, we'll talk some college football, of course, as we've got Chalk Talk with Chuck Reedy and also Ellis Johnson, presented by Palmetto Sports Connections. We will get both of their takes on the Gamecocks win over Kentucky and then start looking forward to Clemson and North Carolina in Chapel Hill this weekend. I'd love to find out the stories about Bill Belichick from these two. So we'll have some fun with Chuck and Ellis coming up just after 7 o'clock. Otherwise, pretty much open for your phone calls and text messages. You can text us anytime at 803-900-4847. We will also hear from Coastal Carolina head coach Tim Beck. Held his weekly press conference a bit earlier today. Sneaky good game as they take on Old Dominion on the road. ODU off to its best start at 3-1 since 2014. They've got the top-ranked offense in the Sun Belt Conference, so it'll be a challenge for the Chanticleers up in the Virginia coast, and so we'll get into that with Coach a little bit later on. Hopefully get some Dabo Sweeney for you as well, as he is set for his usual Wednesday visit after practice with the media, so if we can squeeze that in back half of the program, we would do that. Otherwise, it's all on you tonight at 888-898-2525. Smitty, how you doing on this Wednesday?
I am excellent because we have got the best weather right now, and it always happens after we get these, even if it's just a little scare, a little flirtation with a tropical storm. And then the sun comes out and the rainbows hit and the dew is glistening and it has been sunny and 81 and low humidity, and it is why one of the major reasons we live here in South Carolina. The other, of course, is to bring you Dabo Swinney and Shane Beamer midweek press conferences.
Well, we probably won't get into Shane Beamer. Josh Cohen listened in on the Southeastern Conference teleconference today. Josh, how was that?
I think they even talked about the Braves. I mean, I don't really know what was going on. I mean, I don't think there was one person from I think that was the only person from South Carolina in that call other than Shane Beamer. I don't know. Yeah, it was.
And we should actually explain this a little bit, because sometimes, there is a disconnect between what we talk about, because we're in the media, and then people are like, why are you saying that? And we should say, in a lot of these press conferences, especially the one Josh was in on today, it can be that it is national writers or SEC writers. Mm-hmm. So they're not asking about how Judge Collier's dealing with his treatment. They don't dig into that. They might ask Shane Beamer something like, well, we haven't had the chance to talk to you in a couple weeks, Coach. What do you think about the new SEC scheduling format? Or what did you think of Bobby Petrino being elevated at Arkansas? And it's things that we would not ask, and our colleagues like David Cloninger or Jordan Kay would not ask. So it's just a different room and a different feel. And this happens in post-game too. Sometimes in post-game there's a national writer at a Clemson or South Carolina game, and they ask a question out of nowhere, and you're looking over and you realize, oh, that's somebody that's working on a column for USA Today. That's not at all what our audience is looking for. So that's a great point. What happens, and sometimes I think that's lost,
And Smitty, a lot of these writers, as you pointed out, they've got a storyline in mind. So they're going to run. If Josh had stayed on and listened to all, 16 coaches in the SEC today, he would have probably heard somebody ask a variation of that same question to all 16 of them. Because, and you bring up a great example. All right, Bobby Petrino moving back in as interim head coach at Arkansas. What do you guys, outside of the Arkansas people, of course, what do you guys think about his return to the SEC? And most coaches, would not say what they're thinking in regards to Bobby Petrino.
Co-eds? You mean, is it that it, or make sure you've got your legal fees are paid up in case you've got issues in the future?
Yeah, I mean, and none of them would point out Hunter Yurachek, the athletics director at Arkansas, and ask him, what are you thinking? You've already seen what this guy has done throughout his career, and especially to your school. Why are you bringing him back? But I guess the bottom line reason to that is he's a winner on the field, and I'll leave it at that. So that's why Josh tuned in, and Coach Beamer didn't have any breaking news today, so we probably won't get to him, but we'll try and get to both Tim Beck and perhaps Dabo Swinney before the show is done. All right, 888.
I want to bring this up, Chris. I want to jump in on something you just said, because I think we talk about coaching changes sometimes on this show, and I find it Phil is usually, although he was tough on Coach Beamer a couple weeks ago, I've always found Phil to be much more like he's always trying to keep coaches' jobs, right? Like he tried to keep Will Muschamp's job for a long time, and we were on opposite sides of that one. To steal a line from Dennis Miller, there's some guys I wouldn't trust to hold my line at Disney World, and there's just guys I just wouldn't hire to operate a program. Mm-hmm. But what you just said, Bobby Petrino has been a winner on the field, and I agree with that. But I tell you, sometimes I think programs need to take a different tact and look at this. Will we be better? Will we be set up to win when he inevitably leaves? Whenever that is. Retire, right. Dies on the job, we have to fire him. Whatever the situation and circumstance is, will our program be in a better position at the end of it? Because I think you're right. I think it's always this short term, well, can we win? Can we win? Can we win? But I also have to, one of the issues I have with what South Carolina was doing with Will Muschamp, and I could see this, they were not going to be good when he left. That was a major issue. Even if he squeezed out that upset win over Georgia, even if he squeezed out a couple of wins, he was not building the infrastructure for them to compete at a high level. And I do not think that is talked about enough. And Bobby Petrino is is he not the ultimate like risk reward, short term gain for long term pain guy? Don't you think if they hire him long term, it's going to be a train wreck at some point? Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day you'll regret it.
Well, and the fascinating part about this to me is the comments from Hunter Yurachek, their AD, when he came out yesterday or the day before after he made the announcement that Sam Pittman was no longer the head coach at Arkansas. He followed that up by saying Sam was not set up financially to compete in the SEC. So I asked Phil this question. I'll pose it to you, Smitty, and our listeners as well at 888-898-2525. Let's put South Carolina or Clemson in that scenario. We know that's probably not the case at either place. But let's just assume for a moment, to bring it full circle back here, that you fire Dabo Swinney or you fire Shane Beamer, and then Jeremiah Donati were to come out and say, the reason we had to get rid of Coach Beamer is because he wasn't winning. But in fairness, we're not providing him enough resources to be successful. So my question was, if you're Arkansas and that's the scenario you feel, why in the world did you fire Sam Pittman?
That's what's known as a cover story, Chris. Don't you think? I mean, it's not the truth. They thought Sam Pittman was underachieving. That's why. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I guess he was. I don't know. I'd have to dig into what Arkansas should be. And we are in a new era. I do think I was taken aback a little bit when I saw that Oklahoma State was not paying a lot in NIL. Now they have raised a lot of money for their athletic department because there's a T. Boone Pickens Foundation, like through his family. They've got money. It just didn't go to NIL. And to me, that's something you need to be educated on, I guess, as you look at what kind of job someone's doing. Are you giving them the resources? Rocco Baldelli got fired by the Minnesota Twins. Can anybody say with a straight face they know if Rocco Baldelli is a great manager, an average manager, or a bad manager? I don't think you know, because the Minnesota Twins don't have the payroll of the Dodgers, the Mets, or the Yankees. I don't think you know. He might be a great baseball man. And, I mean, he played in the big leagues all these years. He knows what he's doing, but it comes down to, are you the right fit for this organization? In other words, Sam Pittman, I think the situation was Sam Pittman was probably saying to them, I don't have the resources, and they were probably tired of hearing it and said, we're going to give the job to somebody who wants it at this level. And they knew Bobby Petrino would take it and will run with it, because he like a lot of guys that have burned ADs in the past, he doesn't have a lot of options. A lot of people aren't taking Bobby Petrino's calls, and they knew they could get him to come in and try to squeeze out a few wins at the end of this season.
I guess so. I just found that an odd thing for the athletic director to comment on and also acknowledge that, hey, we're not pumping in enough money, especially when you have Walmart money in the state of Arkansas. You've got Tyson Foods, who advertises on the field in Arkansas. You've got all kinds of resources. You would think, heck, Jerry Jones, I would think, would give back to his alma mater. Maybe not. But you would think the resources are certainly there for a program as tradition-rich as Arkansas for them to be able to contend. I just found that an odd statement for an AD to come out and say, look, it's almost like, and I believe the final straw in the Mike Gundy situation was when he made the comment the week they were playing Oregon that we have basically no shot because of the amount of money that Oregon is pumping into their football program versus the amount of money we are. Well, I mean, you already have that defeatist attitude. Your players are thinking, well, coach doesn't think we have a chance to win. Why should we show up? So that was, to me, that was the beginning of the end for end.
Gundy was saying, you know what, if I had any money at all, these guys wouldn't be here. I would get rid of these guys and get real football players because they wouldn't be getting the money, right? He's not saying we need more NIL money. Oh, so you can pay these guys? No, so I can get rid of these jabronis and get real football players in here. And what you were saying about Arkansas is, I'm thinking it through. I do wonder, because we never know the answer to this question. Who holds the purse strings? Was the AD was it a plea for help to say there's money here, but I'm not allowed to use it? That's what Gundy had. The situation was Oklahoma State has money. Was the Arkansas AD not actually talking about Pittman doesn't have the money to succeed? He's saying the money is available from Tyson Foods, from Sam Walton's family, from Jerry Jones. I need it, though. to go and get these players. I need to go. I need access to that money. Or maybe he was just asking, because my point being, the AD isn't saying I've got the money and Sam Pittman doesn't have the resources to win. Maybe he's saying somebody else has the money and they won't let me use it. And this is the end result. And this was his chance to say that publicly.
Entirely possible. You wonder if John Calipari is soaking up the majority of the Arkansas NIL money into men's basketball, and the baseball program has money to burn. I don't think Dave Van Horn's hurting.
No, I think those are all excellent points. And these are this is a new frontier, right? We never had these discussions previously. Prior to NIL, we didn't know where the money was going. I mean, we knew a lot of it was being funneled through Bruce Pearl, but we didn't know where all the money was going in football, baseball, and basketball. We knew Kentucky basketball players were likely getting paid. Am I speaking out of turn here? We knew Auburn football players and LSU football players might have been getting a piece, but we didn't know, we couldn't have said with any certainty about, what went on at Southern Cal, for instance. I mean, we've got news reports that Reggie Bush's family was getting I don't even remember the story now. I don't even remember the story about why different people got popped. But the point being, we didn't know where all that money was being funneled to at that. And now with NIL, we have some public record of who's getting the money. And to your point, Arkansas basketball is not hurting. Right.
No.
So
Yeah,
Arkansas football. I think the AD may have been making a plea. I need more money for football for Sam Pittman or Bobby Petrino. I can't even believe Bobby Petrino is a topic on this show. Or our next football coach in order to succeed in this league.
It's a very fair point. It is. All right, we will take a timeout. When we come back, there are bigger fish to fry tonight, including the Atlanta Braves have made a decision on the future of Brian Snitker. We will get into that next. Talk some Major League Baseball on a Wednesday here on Sports Talk.
Are you in the market for an auto loan? Move now. Get an auto loan from Founders Federal Credit Union now through October 31st, and you'll be entered to win up to $25,000 toward your qualifying auto loan and a $5,000 deposit into your Loyalty Select account. Loyalty Select is our highest yield savings account. Leave it there to grow or transfer it out to spend. And the best part? We'll be choosing monthly winners. So the earlier you get your auto loan, the more chances you have to win. So don't wait. Visit foundersfcu.com/auto to learn more or begin your auto loan application today. Not a Founders member yet? Visit us online or stop by an office to learn more about Founders and see if you qualify for membership. We have the financial tools you'll need and the personalized service you deserve. Relax, you're with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required.
This is Perry Orth, former South Carolina quarterback. On the field, my job was simple. Read the defense, protect the ball, and give my team the best chance to win. Off the field, at Moultrie Insurance, our job is no different. Help protect your business from the risks that you don't see coming, so you can focus on moving the ball forward. Just like a good quarterback, we anticipate challenges, call the right plays, and keep you protected. Trust Moultrie Insurance to cover your blind side and keep your business in the game. Visit MoultrieINS.com today.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate in the Palmetto State. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with a family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and slow roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at sccattle.org. Beef. It's what's for dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff program.
When South Carolina's best high school football players take the field at the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl, they're backed by a powerful team of their own. As proud title sponsors, your local co-ops celebrate more than just a game. It's a tradition where talent shines, where teamwork matters, and where community spirit takes center stage. Don't miss the 78th Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl, December 13th at Doug Shaw Memorial Stadium in Myrtle Beach, powered by your electric cooperative.
Wednesday night here on Sports Talk, Sports Talk Media Network with Chris, Josh, and Smitty. You can join us at 888-898-2525. Talk coming up in about 45 minutes at the top of next hour. In case you missed it earlier today, game 2s across the board in the wild card round. The San Diego Padres staved off elimination, shutting out the Chicago Cubs 3-0. And Smitty, quickly to that ball game, I was watching a tail end of that, and the job that the Padres bullpen, just terrific. But in particular, Matt Miller, I think it is, out of their bullpen that's throwing 100+ miles per hour. That guy's nearly unhittable.
Yeah, the Padres may have, I think statistically this season they had the best bullpen. They are weak in the starting rotation, which is what's so fascinating. You look at all of these teams and their payrolls, and you would think you could get complete teams, but you can't. I mean, the Yankees were, and we'll get to that update in just a moment. They're a flawed team, $300 million payroll. They're obviously not a complete team. See defense and base running. The Dodgers don't have a bullpen at all. Dodger fans have gotten to calling it the blow pen. So they don't have
Kershaw out there now.
Yes, they have. Well, Kershaw's not on the wild card roster, but they've got Tyler Glasnow and Emmett Sheehan, who was a starter. They've got them in the bullpen. Roki says so. They're going to piece together a bullpen with a $350 million payroll. The Mets aren't even there. They fell apart. The wheels came off, and they had a $300+ million payroll. So the playoffs and Major League Baseball is so fascinating. And that's what I was getting around to. As you look at all of these teams, they all have a bit of an identity, and the Padres' identity is weak in the starting rotation but really strong in the bullpen. And how far can you take that? Right now they've taken it to Game 3, so it's going to be fascinating.
And I beg your pardon, it was Mason Miller, not Matt Miller. Mason Miller, who struck out 5. All 5 of the outs he got in relief were via the strikeout. And when you throw 104 miles per hour and in the strike zone, you're pretty good. Also, earlier today, Josh, what in the world happened to your Tigers? Had a chance to close out the Guardians, and they give up 5 runs late in the ballgame, lose 6-1.
5 runs in the 8th inning. What are we doing? I mean, are we crazy? I mean, if I wasn't in class being a good, studious student, I mean, I would have been watching. Good thing, I wasn't watching because I probably would have gone into a... I don't know what would have happened if I was watching, if I'm just going to be honest. But we lost 6-1. I don't know. I don't know what happened. We were tied up until the 8th, and it went downhill from there.
All right, so Game 3 of both of those series, the decisive Game 3 set for tomorrow. Meantime, the Yankees trying to do what the Padres and Guardians have already done, and that's play another day. They lead 2-0. A home run in the bottom of the first inning has given them a 2-0 lead. Smitty, it was fascinating out at Tim Beck's press conference a bit earlier today, and I thought I was in the Northeast instead of the Southeast because I was the only Braves fan in the building. Coach Beck is a Cleveland Guardians fan. Then you had Mike Uva, who has taken over as the new sports information director at Coastal. Of course, Gamecock fans will remember him for his work for many, many years, both in television in the Midlands and also, I believe, at Gamecock Central. He's a Red Sox fan. You had Yankees fans that were in there. Tad Hudson, who is the starting quarterback for Coastal, who grew up in Charlotte, is a Red Sox fan. So I was like, what are we doing here, people? Why are all these people? But nonetheless, the Red Sox and Yankees always seem to deliver, and there are enough fans on both sides, whether they play in early October, late October, whether they play in April, it doesn't seem to matter. It's always going to be good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. This is, look, this is the positive aspect to expanding the playoffs. I think a lot of traditionalist fans think they went too far, and it's hard to even keep up with what this is.
Well, what about you? Do you think it went too far?
Oh, yes. I preferred, but like a lot of people, I think it's almost like our opinions coalesce around what we saw when we were really, really intense fans, usually like in our teenage years. I always use the example, like if you saw Muhammad Ali fight and you were 18 years old, nobody can ever tell you that he's not the greatest fighter of all time.
Right.
But if you were 18 years old and you saw Mike Tyson, you say, no, we'll never see anything like that again. And when I was, 12, 13, 14 years old, it used to be there were just 4 divisions total, NL West and NL East and West and East in the American League. And then they went and played a 7-game series in the NLALCS and then the 7 games in the World Series. And, of course, my father and people that are older than us, our father's generation and grandfather's generations will tell you, what do you need these playoffs for? You got the best team from the American League. You get the best team from the National League. You go right to the World Series. That's what they would say. The whole thing's over by October 15th. And so I liked it the way it was with the divisions. You know, there were like, I think, 24 major league teams at the time maybe. And I loved that. I loved the old and I think they may have made a mistake. But, all right, so I've gone a long way to tell you, but this is why they did it. So you can get games like this, Yankees, Red Sox, everything on the line, October 1st at 6:30. And that's why they did it. Primetime audience is coming, and they're going to join Yankees, Red Sox, and the intensity is going to be there. And one of them's going home in the next couple of days. And it is a beautiful, beautiful thing, October baseball. And they wanted Yankees, Red Sox, Padres, Dodgers, Giants, Dodgers, and Cubs, Cardinals, and they're getting it sometimes.
Yeah, I've come around to it. I actually like in Major League Baseball, and I think across the board, the expansion of the playoffs. I'm still trying to weigh my options here with the college football playoff continuing to expand. At some point in time, I hope they put a clamp on it and say, 16, that's enough. I think that's too many, but let's be realistic here. The more money they can make off of it, that's where we're going to end up. But I will say this, though. I do like the best 2 out of 3 in the wild card. I didn't think I would. I thought the single game, everything on the line, you win, you advance, you lose, your season is done. I thought that was the better route, but I'm starting to come around to this best 2 out of 3. And speaking of which, coming up tonight, Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani will try and hit a few more home runs and eliminate the Cincinnati Reds. Reds can't score enough, I don't think, to keep up with your boys, Smitty, so I'm feeling pretty good about the Dodgers advancing. And will advance on the other side of this break. Talk some Brian Snitker leaving the Braves.
On Point weather on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with a low temperature dipping down to 56. Tomorrow, absolutely gorgeous. Sunshine all day long to go with a high temperature of 77. More of the same with clear skies and sunshine on Friday. The high is 78. The weekend not as nice. Saturday, we're cloudy all day. 80 is our high. And Sunday, we can expect some afternoon showers with clouds throughout the day. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
At Palmetto State Armory, we offer the largest selection of guns and ammunition at unbeatable prices. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff are here to provide personalized assistance, ensuring you find exactly what you need. If you enjoy outdoor activities like hunting, camping, or hiking, our clothing and outdoor gear collection has got you covered. We also feature an exceptional indoor range facility where you can experience the thrill of shooting in a safe and controlled environment. Visit us today at PalmettoStateArmory.com or your local retail store. Palmetto State Armory, American made for life.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Attorney General Pam Bondi have met with Tennessee Governor Bill Lee in Memphis. The meeting comes as about a dozen federal law enforcement agencies ordered by President Trump to fight crime have begun making arrests there. Bondi says via social media that the Memphis Safe Task Force made more than 50 arrests over a 2-day period. The Supreme Court is allowing Lisa Cook to remain as a Federal Reserve governor for now. The court is declining to act on the Trump administration's effort to immediately remove her. In a brief unsigned order Wednesday, the High Court said it would hear arguments in January over President Trump's effort to force Cook off the Fed board. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 43 points, the Nasdaq rose 95. More details at srnnews.com.
I don't know too many folks out there who love paying taxes, but what about getting tax credits? That's appealing, right? My buddy Ken at Broker Solar is in the tax credit business. How would you like a solar battery that helps do 2 things? First, it serves as an instant generator the moment the power cuts out, and it doesn't even require gasoline. Secondly, it lets you take some control back from the power companies. Yeah, you can use solar power during the peak hours when your power company wants to charge you the most. Oh, and that tax credit on solar batteries, you can get a 30% tax credit right now. This is a phenomenal time to reach out to Ken. He'll come out to your home or your business. He'll give you a comprehensive free estimate, answer any questions. Solar isn't free, but you need to take advantage of those credits when they do come around. around. Call Ken right now. Save on a solar-powered battery. Online, find him at brokersolar.com or just call Ken, 807-7417. That's 807-7417, Broker Solar.
Are you in the market for an auto loan? Move now. Get an auto loan from Founders Federal Credit Union now through October 31st, and you'll be entered to win up to $25,000 toward your qualifying auto loan and a $5,000 deposit into your Loyalty Select account. Loyalty Select is our highest yield savings account. Leave it there to grow or transfer it out to spend. And the best part? We'll be choosing monthly winners. So the earlier you get your auto loan, the more chances you have to win. So don't wait. Visit foundersfcu.com/auto to learn more or begin your auto loan application today. Not a Founders member yet? Visit us online or stop by an office to learn more about Founders and see if you qualify for membership. We have the financial tools you'll need and the personalized service you deserve. Relax, you're with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required.
This fall, discover a place where friendly faces greet you at the door. McCoy's Hardware of Lexington. Greg Lynette and their welcoming team make every visit a breeze with expert advice and genuine hometown care. No more endless aisles or big box blues, just quality products and people who want to know your name. For every project, big or small, find what you need and a neighborly smile at 2028 Augusta Highway. Shop local. Shop happy. McCoy's Hardware of Lexington.
If you're feeling the weight of the world, how about visiting Spa MD in West Columbia? Marcy and her team can provide that perfect massage for individuals or even a couple. Lainey's been several times. She comes home completely revitalized. For a gift, if you're in the doghouse, or just because you love her, check out their options at visitspamd.com or call 251-9400. Leave your stress behind because you know what? You deserve this getaway. Spa MD, 251-9400.
Wednesday night here on Sports Talk Media Network across the state of South Carolina, and just what has turned out to be an absolutely gorgeous Wednesday evening. And as the weather starts to cool a little bit, you may think, well, the beach is probably not the spot for me. I take you aback. I'd say, wait a minute. Paulie'sVacationRentals.com just doesn't work from Memorial Day to Labor Day. They work 12 months out of the year. Pawleys Island, the place. Jimmy Smith is the man. You can give him a call for anything you need, whether it be a weekend vacation rental, maybe a full week down at the beach. If you're looking to buy something, along the Grand Strand, Jimmy can handle all of that. James Smith Real Estate at 843-237-4246 or log on to Paulie'sVacationRentals.com for your perfect beach getaway. We'll break out the chalk and break down the games coming up with Chuck and Ellis a little bit later on in the program, just after 7 o'clock. We'll also hear from Tim Beck, head coach of the Chanticleers, as they get ready to face Old Dominion this coming weekend. Big Sunbelt Conference action against a very good offense from the Monarchs. We'll let you hear from Coach before we close up shop. Maybe a little Dabo Sweeney as well in your phone calls at 888-898-2525, or you can text us. Text line is 803-900-4847. Some of the other news of the day, and probably the biggest story of the day, Smitty, by far, especially in our neck of the woods, is the Atlanta Braves announcing today that Brian Snitker, longtime manager, 10 years with the club, won a World Series, 50 years basically in baseball. He's going to transition into an advisory role with the organization for the upcoming baseball season and will be inducted into the Atlanta Braves Hall of Fame prior to a game next year. Snitker, who is 69, according to the press release from the Braves, guided Atlanta to 811 wins, 6 NL East Division crowns, and 7 postseason berths over parts of 10 seasons, and led the club to its 4th World Series title in franchise history in 2021. He was a 4-time finalist for NL Manager of the Year in his 9 full seasons at the helm and won the award in 2018. He exits his managerial post with the 3rd most wins by any skipper in the history of the franchise. And Smitty, when I heard this, you kind of anticipated, and we've talked with Mike Morgan about this when he's on, and he'll provide great perspective, I'm sure, about this tomorrow. But we've talked with him, and it kind of felt like this was the last year for Brian Snitker. But when it comes to today, it still was a little stunning that they figured out a way to move him out of being a manager, but he's going to stay with the club. And now the question is for the Braves, a very proud franchise, where do you turn for your next manager?
Now that I don't know. And look, they've had success going from within. Bobby Cox was a Braves guy, and obviously saw what he did. Freddie Gonzalez didn't really have success as a manager, but that was it was when the organization was in transition talent-wise. But he was, he came from the Marlins, but he was a long-time Braves guy, so he understood the Braves way, which is different. Which is different. Whatever you think about the Braves and whatever you think about baseball and analytics and all those things, the Braves organization is run in a somewhat unique way, and Brian Snitker was a part of that, as you said. I was hopeful, and I really hope that Braves fans appreciate what they just saw. A few years ago, I'm not sure whether I was on a Braves. I don't think I would have been on a Braves message board. I have no reason to ever visit a Braves message board, but I remember hearing a lot of comments, negative ones, around Brian Snitker. And I just couldn't believe it. It kept going on, and there were these stories about perhaps he should be fired and all these different things. And I hope that's all quieted down, with the World Series and the 100-win seasons and all that he's done. And obviously, anybody with two eyes can see that the Braves' issues have been injuries. Anything they've, in terms of underachieving at all. And let's not forget, they won in 2021 without the services of Ronald Acuna, who was on the shelf for the second half of that season and for the playoffs. But for me to celebrate Brian Snitker, I am not a Braves fan. However, I am absolutely a Brian Snitker fan. When I look and hear some of his story, and I'll share with you, and I'll intersperse a couple of things here. I'll drop a couple of things. I have a colleague of mine. I used to work with someone who was the voice of the Greenville Braves when Brian Snitker was managing there. And so they were on the bus together and in Comfort Inns together and hanging out together and talking baseball. And he became very close with Brian Snitker. And so he would tell me stories, and he never thought Brian Snitker would be the manager of the Atlanta Braves, and neither did Brian Snitker. But for me, to see someone that dedicated his life to Braves baseball, 49 years in the Braves organization, and to me, it's almost as if his life is a movie, and I'm glad it got this happy ending with the World Series and the success at the end. Brian Snitker was being run out of baseball as a player, hit like 214, so he was going to go, and he had no skills in life. His phone rings at his home, probably his parents' home, and on the other line is Hank Aaron, who was the roving minor league instructor back then, and said to him, "Snit, I want you to come be our roving minor league instructor. It pays $14,000 a year. Do you want to do it?" This is Hank Aaron. So Brian Snitker, like any of us, would have said, "Well, Hammer, I'll do what you want. I got you, man." His first job, like as a manager with the Anderson Braves in Anderson, South Carolina. His roommate on the road was future World Series manager Cito Gaston, who would introduce him to his future wife. Cito Gaston introduced a young lady named Ronnie to Brian Snitker, and they got together, got married. And, of course, Cito Gaston goes on to win 2 World Series with the Blue Jays, and then Snitker wins later. And so you'd love to be a fly on the wall for their conversations. And but anyway, Snit, I'm hearing these stories. 2-time minor league manager of the year with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, which maybe people knew, because it's in his bio a lot. But he also he managed in Anderson, Myrtle Beach, the Greenville Braves, and the Sumter Braves. This is a guy that spent almost as much time in the Palmetto State as we have, which is fascinating.
Grew up in Illinois.
Yeah, grew up in Illinois. You'd love to talk to him about that. He won 6 division titles in 9 seasons, 2 100-win seasons. And to put in perspective how impressive that is, nobody won 100 games this year. Nobody. The Brewers won 97. That was it. He went for 100-plus wins in back-to-back seasons. Of course, he won the 2021 World Series. 55% of his games in the big leagues. Look around at the winning percentages of managers, even the ones in the Hall of Fame, even the ones that we all know the names of. Check out their win percentages. Most of them aren't much better than 55%. In the minor leagues, Snitker mentored David Justice, Mark Lemke, Brian McCann, Freddie Freeman, Chipper Jones. They all credit some of the success in their career to the time they spent with Brian Snitker and the way he handled them in the minor leagues. And all that time, you asked, it's stunning, kind of jarring when a guy leaves the organization after 49 years, steps away. He said in part it's because of this. He wants to see his grandsons play. His son, who was drafted into the major leagues by a big league club, by the Braves, he was an outstanding high school player. Brian Snitker saw his son play 3 innings of high school baseball. That's the level of dedication he had to the Atlanta Braves. And I don't think we should ever forget this. For anybody that is out there and thinks they aren't where they should be and they're not seeing the hard work pay off, Brian Snitker was demoted from the third base coach in Atlanta to the AAA manager at Gwinnett at the age of 60. He was 60 years old, did not have a major league pension, had not worked in the big leagues long enough. He said this is it. He had no savings. He was driving an Astro van, had nothing. 5 years later, he's hoisting the commissioner's trophy.
This is an amazing
amazing story that this happened. And I know that we so often, on this show as well, on this show and a lot of shows like this, we spend a lot of time like questioning loyalty of modern players and coaches moving from one job to the other for the bigger paycheck and all of those things. And we talk about NIL and the transfer portal and lament so much of what is going on. You just watch somebody spend 49 years with one organization. You want loyalty? You want devotion? This guy spent 30 plus years on buses in springs and summers in the Carolina League, in the Appalachian League, in the Southern League. So I'm not a fan of the Braves, but I am absolutely a fan of Brian Snitker. And I don't think he should be taken for granted by Braves fans. And I hope today they aren't. I hope today Braves fans are celebrating him, raising a glass to him, and understand that's what devotion and loyalty looks like.
I agree. I echo those sentiments in it. And I thought it was interesting, too. I don't know that all their struggles this year were solely on him. I think he's obviously getting a lot of the blame from Braves fans because of how much they underachieved this year. But I looked at the roster back in 2021 when they won the World Series, their starting roster for that game, and just pulled out a few names that are no longer with him. A.J. Minter, Freddie Freeman, Travis d'Arnaud, Dansby Swanson, Max Fried. Freeman, Swanson, Fried are all in the playoffs with different clubs now. Say what you will about the injuries, and they certainly were big for the Braves this year, but I'm not sure talent-wise, and we've heard a lot about how well their farm system was, back during the 90s. They were able to pull all the guys that you just referenced up through into the Major League Club because their farm system was so stacked. I don't know that they've got the guys there anymore. And so it's going to be fascinating to see who they I pulled up a website, Atlanta All Day, today, and they listed 4 guys that they thought might make some sense to replace Brian Snitker. 2 of them were Albert Pujols and also Andrew Jones.
I'm not going to give Andrew Jones that job. And again, those guys, now I don't want to, Albert Pujols, I've heard, is interviewing for the Angels job, where he spent a portion of his career. Mm-hmm. It's almost like he should give some of that money back that he took from the Angels for the second half of his career. But, sometimes I think you have to look. We talk about organizations run the right way in the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, which college programs are run the right way. The Cardinals, they're not good this year, but the Cardinals historically have been good and are almost always good, right? And they do it, and they spend money, but they don't spend money like Dodgers, Yankees, Mets spend money. They are a well-run organization. Would the Cardinals hire Andrew Jones as their manager tomorrow if they had an opening? Or would they get somebody you've probably never heard of that's a bench coach for some successful organization right now that is built for this job? The guys, and I'm not saying anything negative about Albert Pujols and Andrew Jones, who may one day be managers, but those are names that you hire to win the press conference and that you hope walk into a dugout and have the immediate respect of the players. But what gets respect from the players is a guy like Brian Snitker who rode the bus and was in the same minor league towns that you were in and had those similar experiences. And no offense to those guys. They might be good managers one day, but Albert Pujols and Andrew Jones haven't been in the middle of the bus in years. They've been flying first class. Those hires almost never work. Hall of Fame player like Albert Pujols or borderline Hall of Fame player like Andrew Jones, 10 Gold Gloves. Those hires almost never work. It's rare when you are a great, great player that is also a very good manager at the big league level. And there's myriad reasons for that, but I'd find the next Brian Snitker who is that, and he might be in Gwinnett, he might be in Macon, but I'd go find that guy.
How about Ron Washington? Does he make more sense if his health is okay?
That's the thing. This is a Braves team that's not going to win the World Series next year, and I kind of think you go younger than Ron Washington. Yeah. I think Ron Washington, and no offense to him, that guy's a winner, but and a great infield instructor, but Ron Washington's probably not the right fit for that organization.
All right,
young Ron Washington.
Yeah, exactly. Quick timeout, plenty more to come on a Wednesday here on Sports Talk.
We're with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer, let's say I'm out in the woods or I'm on the water and I need to reach a DNR agent. How do I do that?
Operation Game Thief, Phil. It's been around 30-plus years. You can call us at our 24-hour hotline any time of day, 1-800-922-5431. To report wildlife violations or to get help if you're in trouble in the woods or on the water, call us at Operation Game Thief, 1-800-922-5431.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love, and you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
Life insurance isn't for you. It's for those you love the most. For a complete insurance review, call Buddy Bridges in Lawrence County at 864-923-2174, serving Lawrence, Clinton, and the shores of Lake Greenwood.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
Traveling can be the worst, especially when you can't find your favorite show. Well, don't worry. We've got the perfect way to keep up with everything happening in the Palmetto State when you're away from home. Just pull up the Chief Sports app on your mobile device, and you can listen live to Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network.
So the next time you can't find us on one of our great radio affiliates, just log on to the Chief Sports app, the best way to stay connected with the Sports Talk Media Network.
Hi, I'm Jim Corbett. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years. There's one thing I've learned about injury cases. It's you need the personal touch. You need the lawyer to get to know you and describe your damages. You don't want a case manager talking to an insurance company and then talking to you and then talking to maybe to a lawyer with limited experience at the last minute to try to settle a case. I talk to you. I find out what your case is about. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com for your injury cases.
Every lottery ticket purchase keeps education in our state moving forward. In fact, the lottery has raised more than $200 million for state school buses to get our students to school safely every day. Then, the lottery helps those students go even further in their education by funding the Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow Scholarships. So remember, when you play the lottery, you're keeping South Carolina students on the road to success. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
Get into the recruiting report here in just a quick second. A scoreboard update. Yankees and Red Sox now bottom of the third in the American League Wild Card Series, tied at 2 runs apiece. A Red Sox victory, and they move on to the ALDS. Reds and Dodgers coming up later on tonight. Meantime, the Guardians forced a Game 3 with a 6-1 win over Detroit. San Diego did the same with a 3-0 shutout of Chicago. We get into recruiting, brought to you by our good friends over at Seawells in Columbia with the best ever daily luncheon buffet. And tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning when it gets started, Josh Cohen, they will have
a feast, as I will call it. Southern fried chicken
feast.
Cared roast beef, cared roasted sirloin of beef. No, it's correct this week. It says oh gosh, I messed up.
It's carved.
It's carved roasted sirloin of beef. It is correct this week. Although I guess it was correct last week as well. It's just in a different form. Baked flounder fillets, and sliced mojo pork loin and gravy. And Friday they are closed, so tomorrow we'll close out the week at Seawells.
So you better get over there and enjoy the daily luncheon buffet. Plus, of course, as we get towards the holiday season, now that we're into October, you may have tailgate parties, holiday parties, and you need catering. Call the experts at Seawells. Some basketball news to kick things off tonight on the women's basketball front. 2026 standout McKenna Wolitzko has actually committed to Iowa. She made that announcement earlier today. She had South Carolina as one of her finalists, but chose the Hawkeyes over Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks, among others. Meantime, in football, 2027 defensive end Santana Harvey of Lakeland, Florida, named a top 9. That includes USC, SMU, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas Tech, Georgia Tech, Michigan State, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. Last season, he had 8.5 sacks and 16.5 tackles for loss. Meantime, 2027 cornerback Joshua Dobson of Catawba Ridge, he's named the top 12. That includes both USC and Clemson, along with LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas Tech, Penn State, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Florida State. 2027 Irmo offensive tackle Nate Carson has been offered by Maryland. Meantime, Burns running back David Segara of the 2027 class was offered by Michigan. He visited USC last Saturday and is scheduled to visit Florida this coming Saturday. 2027 defensive end Jaden Worth of Dutch Fork visited NC State on Saturday, and he was also offered at that time by the Wolfpack. 2028 linebacker Skylar Austin of Raleigh has been offered by South Carolina. He was in for a visit at Carolina on Saturday night. Gamecock running back commitment Amari Thomas, he plans to visit Florida State this coming Saturday. Meantime, Clemson target 2027 linebacker Caden Henderson of Tampa also plans to be at Florida State this coming weekend. 2027 offensive guard center Jaden Dean of Miami, who drew interest from Clemson and visited for the LSU game, did not include the Tigers on the list of schools he is focusing on. Those are, though, Oklahoma, along with Oregon, Michigan, Florida State, Nebraska, Louisville, Ohio State, Kentucky, Syracuse, South Florida, Mississippi State, and West Virginia. Per John Whittle of the Big Spurs, 6'10" William Stevens of Lake Norman, North Carolina, has canceled his official visit to South Carolina for this coming weekend. Stevens has visited Clemson and St. Mary's and was scheduled to visit Vanderbilt this past weekend. And 5'9" Samanto Okafor of Spain made an official visit to USC last weekend, along with 6'4" Kelsey Andrews of IMG Academy. In baseball, 2027, we had this last night, outfielder, pitcher, and first baseman Jax Haynes of Charlotte has committed to the Gamecocks. And 2027 third baseman Kristen Spivey of Lexington, he announced a commitment to the Gamecocks as well. And that's a quick check of recruiting brought to you by our good friends at Seawells. You can always check out recruiting up on our website at SportsTalkSC.com and on our social media pages, including our Twitter page. Just search ST Recruiting and you get all the information popped up in one handy spot at ST Recruiting on social media. All right, we will break the football games down. Maybe the best segments in the country coming up next with Chuck and Ellis. They will break out the chalk scribble on the board and tell us what went right, what went wrong, and what was indifferent from this past weekend, and start looking forward to the Tigers and Tar Heels this weekend up in North Carolina. And Smitty, I don't know what's more interesting from this standpoint, because you've got two teams that have not played very good football to this point. So clearly the first thing that's interesting is how Clemson responds coming off the open date. but is it the matchup between Dabo Swinney and Bill Belichick? We saw a stat from Clemson last night. This is just the second time in college football history that you've had a guy who's won Super Bowl championships at the NFL level take on a guy who has won college football national championships at the collegiate level, and Dabo Swinney, of course, at Clemson, and then Bill Belichick up at North Carolina.
Oh, I mean, look at the resumes. 6 Super Bowls for Bill Belichick and a pair of national championships for Dabo Swinney. This is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing, right? You just don't – like, you didn't get to see, like, Bear Bryant and Chuck Noll coach against each other in a game. This is incredible. And it's even more incredible that North Carolina's a 14-point underdog. And I think Clemson, which hasn't played well, they're only 1-3. I think they're going to body bag North Carolina. I think they're going to pull their arms and legs off this weekend. I think this is going to get ugly, and I don't know what happens to North Carolina if they're just going to be patient. But there was so much, just general hoopla, and the way that they kind of wiped their feet on Mac Brown when Bill Belichick was hired. Is it finally, we got rid of this old guy to get this old guy. This is the old guy that you want right here. And obviously Bill Belichick, it goes without saying how impressive his career has been. But I don't know if he's not all in or if it's the way they're running things in terms, they said they were going to be the 31st NFL organization, and you have a lot of coaches and personnel that have not coached at the college level, at least in a long time, or if at all. And so I don't know what the issue is. And there was so much turnover. They actually had more transfer portal players come in than Deion Sanders did in his first season at Colorado. Look, all we know is it's not working. It's not even close. And I think they're running into Clemson at the wrong time. I think Clemson, after a bye week, demolishes North Carolina. And I don't know how UNC fans are going to react. Bill Belichick seems happy with his 28-year-old girlfriend and his retirement beach home or whatever he's got there in North Carolina, probably living in Wilmington in the offseason. But I think it's going to get ugly, and I don't know how North Carolina fans are going to react.
All right, we'll ask the coaches coming up next with Chalk Talk.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. There's no agreement on keeping the federal government open, and both sides are blaming each other for the stalemate. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer wants Republicans to give in to his party's demands.
The way out of this is for Republicans to finally roll up their sleeves and get to work.
House Speaker Mike Johnson places the blame for the shutdown squarely on Democrats.
Almost 2 weeks ago, the House did our job. In the House, we passed a common sense, nonpartisan bill to keep the government open. Republicans did our job. We had one Democrat join us there, so it was bipartisan. But every other Democrat in the House voted to shut the government down. And last night, 44 Democrats in the Senate did the same thing.
Another vote failed again today with no new talks scheduled. The White House reportedly is withdrawing its nominee to head the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
The nomination of E.J. Antoni to lead the BLS has been pulled. No reasons were given. President Trump plans to announce a new nominee soon. Trump nominated Antoni in an attempt to gain more control over the federal agency responsible for producing key economic data. Trump fired Erica McIntyre as BLS commissioner on August 1st. Mike Hempen, Washington.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Attorney General Pam Bondi have met with Tennessee Governor Bill Lee in Memphis. The meeting comes as about a dozen federal law enforcement agencies ordered by President Trump to fight crime have begun making arrests there. Bondi says the Memphis Safe Task Force made more than 50 arrests over a 2-day period. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 43 points. The Nasdaq rose 95, with the S&P 500 index advancing by 22 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you tried online gaming. Who knew 12-year-old boys could be so mean? And where did they learn to swear like that? 2 hours of losing to these underage trash talkers, and you're starting to question if maybe you really should stick to pickleball and other boomer stuff. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Dinesh D'Souza went into a war zone to make his new film, revealing never-before-seen footage of October 7th. The film offers a new way to understand Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy.
Could the fate of the world be tied to this place?
Dinesh D'Souza's new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, is in theaters 2 nights only, October 6th and 8th. Streaming and DVDs available October 9th. All tickets and pre-orders at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Thedragonsprophecyfilm.com.
The government shutdown did not slow down the stock market.
Stocks rose to more records as Wall Street continued to brush off the latest shutdown of the U.S. government. The S&P 500 climbed 0.3% Wednesday. The index beat the all-time high it set last week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 43 points. It's about 0.1%. The Nasdaq Composite rose 0.4%. Treasury yields fell in the bond market. That came after a report from ADP Research suggested that hiring across the country may have been much weaker last month than expected. A report on manufacturing also missed forecasts. Seth Sutel, New York.
A former Democratic member of the Surface Transportation Board has filed a lawsuit challenging his dismissal by President Trump. Robert Primus claims his firing on August 28th was illegal and threatens the board's independence. News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters.
On Point weather on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with a low temperature dipping down to 56. Tomorrow, absolutely gorgeous. Sunshine all day long to go with a high temperature of 77. More the same with clear skies and sunshine on Friday. The high is 78. The weekend not as nice. Saturday we're cloudy all day. 80 is our high. And Sunday we can expect some afternoon showers with clouds throughout the day. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
This is The Point. Make thepointradio.com.
The Point. The Point.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, back we are. It's a Wednesday night here on Sports Talk all across the Palmetto State. We appreciate you spending a couple of hours with us on this beautiful October night. That's right, it's October 1st. So, and the weather certainly feels that way. Chris Bergen here in the PD. We've got Matt Smith along the Grand Strand and Josh Cohen back home in our Columbia studios. You can join us at 888-898-2525. You can also text us anytime. We don't have to be on the air to receive these text messages. You can text us at 803-900-4847. We'll get into some of those coming up a little bit later on in the program. Also hear from Coastal Carolina head football coach Tim Beck and try and squeeze in if we can get it up after his media availability with the Tiger media. We'll hear from Dabo Sweeney as they get ready to take on North Carolina this weekend, get his final thoughts before the matchup is ready to take place on Saturday in Chapel Hill. But one thing, Smitty, we didn't touch on because we ran out of time. If you are a Tigers fan and you're going to Chapel Hill, or you're a North Carolina fan and you're headed up that way, you might want to get there early because Ludacris is evidently providing a pregame concert in Chapel Hill. But from what some of the guys were saying at the Coastal press conference a bit earlier today, they anticipated at one point in time, hey, this was going to be Bill Belichick versus Dabo Sweeney. You certainly thought at least one, if not both of them ranked. It would be a huge ball game. It would be a night game. So Ludacris could perform at like 4 or 5 o'clock and lead right into the evening festivities. Instead, I think his concert is going to start at 9:45 Saturday morning.
Oh, yeah, 9:45
might be interesting.
9:45 a.m. You don't do, it's not bagels and hip hop. That's not what you're supposed to do at a Ludacris concert. So, have you tried? I think our coffee has cinnamon in it. Anyway, Ludacris is right over here. Nope, that's not the timing they were looking for. They were hoping, as you said, that prime time kick. I'm stunned too, Chris. I never would have guessed this. At the beginning of the season, we were looking ahead and we were talking about all the big games. And, of course, South Carolina at LSU coming up in whatever that is, about 10 days or so, how big a deal that was. And this was one we circled for Clemson. Clemson, Florida State, and Clemson, North Carolina, Sweeney, Belichick. And the fact that these teams just haven't held up their end of the bargain this year. And it's just I don't know where it goes from here. You agreed with me, right? You really like Clemson in this game, in this spot here.
I do. I think they went big, but I've got them on double secret probation. I told Dabo Swinney and the team if they made me look silly 3 straight weeks, I would not pick them anymore. And so I will pick North Carolina just to stick by my guns here and the principles. But, yeah, there's no way the Tar Heels win this game, and I don't think it's close.
Real quick, I got something for you guys.
Okay.
Oh, you just came home doing a bid. Tell me what you gonna do. Act a fool.
There you go. That's a little bit of Ludacris for you. Just had to make sure it was clean. That's all.
Very good.
I think it was clean. I don't really know what he was saying, but
you too can hear that at 10:15, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, this Saturday. Tickets on sale now. All right. Let's shift gears. We will talk football. We've got a text about somebody accusing us of really wrecking the show with the baseball segment.
How dare we? Baseball playoffs and Brian Snitker being maneuvered out of the managerial. We would talk baseball. Shame on us.
We thought that today was a good day. October baseball playoffs, the midst of the playoffs, and Brian Snitker, World Series winning manager for the Braves, stepping down, but we got a lashing from one of our listeners. We assume it is Phil Kornblut undercover that texted the show. All right, but what we will do now, we'll move on to Chalk Talk and we do not have Chuck Reedy with us tonight, but we do have Ellis Johnson, and Chalk Talk is presented by Palmetto Sports Connections. At Palmetto Sports Connections, we strive to inform and enlighten you with the ways the state of South Carolina has been a part of moments in sports history through its people, places, schools, and teams. And hang on one second, Josh, and because I want to mention this as well. I really like this, and this is how we'll open with Coach Johnson tonight. Our esteemed guest tonight, Ellis Johnson, coached all over South Carolina as well as all over the Southeast and more, was involved in one of the most famous plays in college football history. This is from Palmetto Sports Connections. We all remember the kick six play when Auburn's Chris Davis returned Alabama's missed field goal over 100 yards for the game-winning touchdown in the 2013 Iron Bowl. But did you know it was Ellis Johnson's idea to put Chris Davis in the end zone just before the fateful kick? Without Ellis Johnson, the kick six never happens. But that is just a part of college football history that anybody can read on the internet. We have the man with us. Coach Johnson, welcome back to Sports Talk, and maybe you can shed a little light on that play so that you heard what I said, just that it was your idea. What can you tell us about the kick six and your role in it? You were there with Gus Malzahn on the sideline.
Well, y'all, I guess I'd say 90% correct. It was my idea to do that. However, when we iced the kicker, we had to get Chris Davis switched with someone, and that was Coach Malzahn that noticed it and got Chris back there to do the return. We had never worked on that, and it looked like we did it every day at practice. It was just amazing how well the kids executed. But since we never actually worked on it, the way we came up with it in about a minute and a half during the timeout was we took whoever was going to usually drop out and be the safety and put him back there because they couldn't fake the field goal from where the ball was. It was out around the 40-yard line. And so when we put him back there, we looked, and it was Ryan White, and he'd actually caught a blocked field goal earlier in the game and tripped and fell down. So I think Coach Malzahn made a really good decision to swap him and Chris. But, yeah, it was one of the most unbelievable things I've been involved in 48 years of football.
Coach, that's just incredible. And how often do you, as a coach, how often do you get to see that? Because we know that what you put on the grease board is not what happens in real life. So how satisfying is it as a coach when you and the other coaches come up with something? Maybe you work on something during the week. I know that was spur of the moment, but maybe, a blitz package or something you pick out on film. How satisfying is it from a coach's perspective to work on something, game plan something, and then see it play out that way?
Yeah, it's good. And what's even more important is when kids execute something the way you coached it. And sometimes it doesn't always come out on the positive end because other teams got players too. But when you coach something and you work on it and the players execute it the right way, that's what coaching's all about. Hey, guys, real quick, Chuck just texted me on my cell, and he's waiting on a call. I don't know if y'all couldn't reach him earlier. But if you wanted to try again, he's been waiting on the call.
Well, we will do that. We'll get Coach Reedy in with us as well. We'll open with Coach Johnson. We'll get Coach Reedy joining us as well here on Chalk Talk, presented by Palmetto Sports Connections. Coach, obviously South Carolina's defense was fantastic against Kentucky, and they forced turnovers, and they did everything right. But I thought more than anything else, there was just a tremendous energy about those guys. So what did you see in terms of the way those guys flew around to the football, wreaked havoc on things? What do you think changed about the way they had been playing earlier in the season and to what they did to Kentucky's front?
Well, I think they've played with energy every time they've come out. I don't think they're physically as strong inside and up front, and they lost some old men up in there. Some tough kids who'd played 5 and 6 years, and they were leaders. And it's just not there now on the depth chart, but they're still playing with tremendous energy and making some big plays. Early in the game, they were just getting gashed by Kentucky on running the football. And when people can do that to them now, that's not their style. They struggle with big, strong people that can run the football effectively. But when they got the turnovers back-to-back almost and put those 6 points plus the extra points and so forth, put those points on the board, it changed where Kentucky couldn't play their style of ball anymore. And they had a young quarterback who's never hardly played college football before. And without a running game or without keeping the score tight where they could lean on the running game, South Carolina's forte, in my opinion, is getting pressure on the quarterback in obvious pass situations. So it played into their hands, but they had a lot to do with making it play into their hands.
Ellis, what did you see differently defensive-wise, or did South Carolina just settle into the game from that first opening series where Kentucky just went straight down the field and scored, and even the second one where they were able to get the field goal and put 10 points up off the board? They looked like two entirely different teams after that opening set versus the way they played the rest of the game.
Well, that's what I said. They got 14 points in 3 plays, and that changed what Kentucky could do. And the young quarterback for Kentucky, I can't remember his name, but he's not going to be able to carry them in the throwing game against decent SEC teams. So when Carolina was able to get those quick turnovers and scores on defense and change it, I mean, Kentucky's winning the ball game went up until when? The middle of the second quarter? Anyhow, they were running the ball at will, and that's been some problem for Carolina. That'd be the only thing that would be making me concerned moving forward, is taking their offense a little bit of time in the game to get on track and get the points primarily in the second half. And then the defense is not real stout against good physical teams up front and have a good running back. Now, once you take them out of that game, you better be ready because they've got good players. I mean, Stewart's a really good player, and they got some others that can really bring pressure on the quarterback.
When you were coaching, how valuable in terms of trying to correct, not necessarily major things, but certainly tweak and correct small issues within your defense, how valuable was an open date?
It can be wonderful, and especially if you go into it feeling positive about what you just did. Sometimes you'll play bad, and people will say, well, got a great open date, work on your mistakes and be ready to roll next week. You don't want to have an open date after you play bad, whether you win or lose. If you perform terribly on the field and you got an open date, there's nothing to erase it and get that taste out of your mouth, because there's no opponent waiting on you Saturday that you can go out there and get that monkey off your back. So I think it's great that they just had a good bounce back game and did some good things, did some things better and pretty good on offense, and did some things on defense. And so that everybody's got something that they can be really excited about. And you go into open date and you're just working on cleaning up stuff and then looking toward the next opponent. So it's always, I always felt like it was better to have an open date after you won a ball game. And certainly they help at critical times in the year if you've got some kids banged up.
Mm-hmm. Chalk Talk tonight with Ellis Johnson. Still, Coach, we're trying to get to Chuck Reedy, so hopefully we can catch up with him in just a second. But in the meantime, let's transition over to Clemson this weekend. Tigers coming off an open date. Do you anticipate their defense playing much better than what we've seen, say, through the first 3 or 4 games of the year?
Well, I hope so. I mean, when you have a new coordinator come in, a new system, you expect some kinks to have to be worked out. But they played better the first game than they did the fourth game, and that's not a good sign. So, I don't really – it's impossible for me to just say what is exactly what happened the other day. When you play LSU pretty well, LSU offense is still a little suspect. They're not able to run the football very well this year, but still they're a much more talented football team and offense than some of the teams they've played since then, and they played them very competitively on defense. Then ever since then, they've had some hot and cold, up and down games. So I don't really know what the issue is, but an open date's good, like you just said a while ago, to be able to clean up some things and get better on some things. Maybe, but better when you come off of a game where you've got a good frame of mind.
Absolutely. Coach Johnson joining us here on Chalk Talk, presented by Palmetto Sports Connections. Coach, much is made about Dabo Swinney not utilizing the transfer portal, but if you really dig into that, his argument is, well, I look in the portal and those guys can't play here and supplant the guys I've got. So kind of brass tacks, when you look at Clemson play football, as you mentioned that, they played really well against LSU and gave them problems and have kind of been up and down since then. Do you see a talented defense? Do you see guys out there? Is there a talent issue, or is it just they're not really, something's not clicking with those guys? Because in order to go in the transfer portal, you'd have to actually get better guys. Are there better guys than Peter Woods and Sammy Brown and these guys?
Well, not according to the pro scouts. They're not ranked first-round draft picks by Clemson. They're ranked first-round draft picks by people who come through in the NFL. So they're legit talent. What Clemson doesn't have up front that they had during some of those teams that could just absolutely smother you, they had too deep up front. And when the second group would come out there, the drop-off was not bad at all. So they're still keeping the pressure. And these offensive linemen that they're playing against, it's becoming almost smothering for them. So I don't see the depth. If they do, they're not willing to play them. I see them out there a little bit, but they're not as productive. So back to the portal thing, the reason Dabo doesn't go wholesale into the portal is it's sort of like the old JUCO thing we used to talk about back before the portal. We would always try not to take a junior college player because we always had the saying, if you take one, you got to take another one behind him in 2 years because you don't have him but 2 years. And so you didn't want to get into that cycle. And that's what I see when you start getting into the portal too deeply, then you become a portal team every year. And that can be up and down. Florida State, great season 2 years ago. Last year was terrible. This year looks like it's going to be better. But they just had an upset loss to Virginia. Sometimes portal culture creates inconsistencies, in my opinion. You can't create the culture and the attitudes and the work habits and the focus that you can when you've got a kid for 3 to 4 years. The biggest problem, I think, that they're having right now is they get some key people hurt and they don't have a good 2 deep. When I say they don't have a good 2 deep, they don't have the kind of quality that they're putting out there with the first 22.
Is this game this weekend, though, Coach, do you believe a chance for them, sort of that get-right game? North Carolina at 2-2, but has really struggled, especially offensively, against the good teams on their schedule, TCU in particular. Do you see Clemson being able to sort of impose their will defensively against the Tar Heels?
I don't predict anything because of the way they play. And I just don't think they can approach any game that it's going to be some kind of get-right game. They need to go out and just find a way to play really good football, and that's what Dabo's been saying for 3 weeks. We need to be playing better football. So that's my look at it. And North Carolina's having a terrible season, not good, but they got players, and so they'll be ready to play. And Clemson's going to have to play better than they've been playing. They might be in trouble. They just lost to a team 2 weeks ago, and Duke whipped them over 20 points, talking about Syracuse. So, I mean, they're not catching these teams, and they're surprisingly better football teams than everybody thought they were going to do. They're not playing well, and they're not winning some games that they should win.
Do you have any interaction over your career with Bill Belichick? Do you know much about him? Clearly, we can all see his resume and what he did with the Patriots. And do you think it's maybe easier to go from the college game to coaching NFL, or vice versa, coming back from the NFL to coach at the collegiate level?
Yeah, I have never met Coach, not even at a pro day or anything else. I think he's unbelievably, done an unbelievable job in his career, his background. This is going to be a stretch. I mean, he talked about it himself. He learned something every day. It's a totally different environment. I don't care whether the NIL and portal has made it a little more NFL-like. It's still a different arena. And he'll adapt to it because he's a really good football coach and knows football and knows the kids. But I have not. I've had coaches that worked for me and coaches I worked with that have worked with him. And everybody that's worked with him really loved working for him because he's so thorough and meticulous and knowledgeable. And it's just, it's just a great program to work in. On the other hand, I've had some players play for him, and they like him because he's a great teacher, and they played for him in the pros. So, I think he will eventually get that thing on track if they're giving him the amount of money they need to compete in that portal and to compete in the very high school recruiting and keeping kids on campus.
Coach, we appreciate the time as always on Chalk Talk. Too bad we couldn't get your tag team partner up and running with us tonight. We'll try and do better next week, but we appreciate it tonight. Enjoy the games over the weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
And Jordan, Chuck told me to tell y'all he's waiting on the call, but I think he's waiting out on a beach somewhere in the Caribbean, so my home service is a little bad.
Your home is where your memories live. It's where you laugh and where you love. We understand the importance of the valuables under your roof, tangible and intangible alike. So no matter what's around the corner, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
Call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171 for all of your Midlands insurance needs.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
G3 here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and it's time for a fall preview. That's right, 720 Chris Drive, 378 and I-26, Frontage Road, where you can now preview the best technology for golf known to man. It's the Tsunami Bar. It's live weight. It's the only technology out where you get your tempo and flow going before you play. Now, it also serves as a pattern support tool. 720 Chris Drive, Frontage Road, 378 and I-26. You also can visit the Garage Gym Pro Shop. Pick up your tools, take them home, and while you're here, tour the Scramble course, 6-hole pitch and putt right now.
All right, big thank you to Ellis Johnson for sitting in with us tonight on Chalk Talk. We apologize. Coach Reedy's out of town, and it was evidently really difficult to try and get in touch with him. Ellis must have the bat phone. We'll have to figure out next time how to get in touch with Coach via the bat phone, because we couldn't. But we apologize for that, but we appreciate Ellis Johnson for dropping by for a visit. All right, 888-898-2525, or as Josh Cohen has informed us, you can text us as well at 803-900-4847. And Josh, what's up on the text line here tonight?
From Mike in Barnwell, what if North Carolina upsets Clemson? Real quick, because we have another text after this.
He's just asking what if happens. I mean,
what happens? What happened? What if North Carolina upsets Clemson?
Well, it's a good question because Dabo Swinney's already played the. Is that not good? Winning 8 out of 10. Mm-hmm. Is that not good? Are we not doing a good job? He played that press conference. Then he played the one where the coaches have been a failure. We're going to get this right. So what's the go-to if they were to lose? Now, again, both Chris and I predicted that Clemson is going to body bag North Carolina in Chapel Hill. But if they don't, to answer Mike from Barnwell, Chris, I think it's disastrous. I
would agree.
You're at risk of losing the team for the first time in the Swinney era.
I think that's a very good possibility because you get to a point sitting at 1-4, then the players start thinking, all right, we came, the ones that have stuck around the program, we came back to contend for a national championship. That's not going to happen. We came back to win an ACC title. That's not going to happen. We came back to have a winning season. That would be on the brink at that point in time. I mean, I don't know how that plays out. I don't think it would happen, but also Smitty didn't think they would be 1-3 after 4 games either. So, and I thought Ellis brought up a great point. I'm not making predictions until I see Clemson go out and play better than they have. He brought up a terrific point. I think Dabo Swinney would take the effort they had against LSU every week and be happy with that and see what happens in terms of results on the scoreboard. But they've not played to that level since. They didn't play anywhere close to it against Troy. They were fortunate. They're fortunate to have one win. I mean, they had to come back in the second half to do that. They couldn't beat Georgia Tech on the road, and then they were miserable against Syracuse. And so they've got a lot to answer for. And Dabo talked this week about it being the coach's fault. They haven't coached well enough. Well, if they were to lose to North Carolina, I don't know where you go after that.
On Point weather on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with a low temperature dipping down to 56. Tomorrow, absolutely gorgeous. Sunshine all day long to go with a high temperature of 77. More of the same with clear skies and sunshine on Friday. The high is 78. The weekend not as nice. Saturday we're cloudy all day. 80 is our high. And Sunday we can expect some afternoon showers with clouds throughout the day. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Baseball and body slams collide at home plate. Palmetto Championship Wrestling invades Lexington County Baseball Stadium. It's the Grand Slam at the Lex. See reigning PCW heavyweight champion No Quit Jake Parker defend his title. Plus the Dawson brothers in the Tag Team Chaos. Friday, October 17th. Gates open 6 p.m. Bell time 7:05 p.m. Tickets on sale now at GoBlowfish.com.
Safe. With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The federal government was thrown into a shutdown with no easy endgame in sight. No new talks were scheduled after the president failed this week to secure a deal with congressional leaders. Blame was being cast on all sides. A vote to end the government shutdown has failed again. House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's praying that Democrats come to their senses. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller have converged on Memphis, Tennessee, to meet with federal agents forming a crime-fighting task force there. Bondi says via social media that the Memphis Safe Task Force made more than 50 arrests over a 2-day period. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 43 points, the Nasdaq rose 95. More details at srnnews.com.
Hello, this is Stacy Huff, host of Huff Nation Sports Zone, each and every Saturday, 10 to 11 a.m. right here on 100.7 FM, The Point, and also 1470 a.m. It'll be a fun trip around the world of sports. Huff Nation Sports Zone, check it out.
Lots of plumbing companies out there. Few are truly local. Time to discover the difference with Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, when I faced plumbing woes at the Cohen home, Josh and his dedicated team, well, they were my go-to solution. They make a commitment to exceptional service. They arrived on time, clearly detailed all the costs and procedures, and efficiently handled all my repairs without any surprises. These days, how often do we complain about a lack of customer service out there? With Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, these folks are professional. They're courteous. They're skilled at what they do, and they've earned my trust, and they've earned my recommendation to you. From urgent repairs to the tankless water heater you've always wanted, they've got you covered. Visit franklinplumbing.sc.com or call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. Hey, you tell them Kev sent you from The Point. I'm pretty sure you'll want to thank me later.
Hey y'all, it's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We're introducing Friday Night Prime Rib Special. Our great chefs at Flight Deck Restaurant have created a great prime rib dinner special, which includes a 10-ounce slow-roasted certified Angus beef prime rib dinner, served with 2 sides of your choice for only $22.95. And if you mention We Love Flight Deck, you get a free cookie or a soft drink with your meal. So come see us at Flight Deck Restaurant to enjoy a delicious slow-roasted prime rib dinner. While you're here, check out the new and improved arcade with over 33 games. We at Flight Deck Restaurant thank you, and God bless.
What's better than getting the best Wagyu and Hereford beef anywhere in these parts and getting it delivered to your door? How about knowing you're still supporting local farmers in Saluda over at H&J Cattle, where tradition meets quality? Visit HandJCattle.com. Place your order for $50 or more, get free delivery in Richland or Lexington County. Plus, Point listeners get 10% off your order. Enter keyword The Point as one word for your discount. HandJCattle.com.
Do you crave growth for your business? That's where The Point comes in. Fran Halloran here. Kevin Cohen and the other local hosts like me have worked to create a space where listeners transform into family. Are you a local business aiming for the stars? You need to get with Kevin and let him help create an individualized blueprint for your growth using the influential stage of The Point Radio. Reach out directly at 563-8558. Teaming with The Point, make this year extraordinary.
Hello, this is Stacy Huff, host of Huff Nation Sports Zone, each and every Saturday, 10 to 11 a.m. right here on 100.7 FM, The Point, and also 1470 a.m. It'll be a fun trip around the world of sports. Huff Nation Sports Zone, check it out.
Back we are on Sports Talk, Wednesday night edition, headed for the home stretch. Don't forget, coming up tomorrow night, we'll have the M&M boys. That'll be an interesting segment with Will Merritt and Corey Miller. We'll also hear from Mike Morgan more on the Braves scenario because he's got his finger on the pulse of the Atlanta Braves, so we certainly will look forward to that on the program tomorrow. You can be a part of the show here in the final half an hour if you like it. 888. I was going to say 864, and then I thought I do not want to give out my personal phone number. So let's go with the toll-free line at 888-898-2525, the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. I don't mind, Josh, Smitty, I don't mind you having my phone number. I'm just not sure I want to put it out around the state of South Carolina. I'm not that popular.
I don't remember the whole story, so I may be just mangling it a bit, but we were doing the scoreboard show one night, and one of our correspondents from the upstate, Justin Mathis, called, and somehow Phil gave out his home number, his personal number, on the air during the course of the report.
I tell a story. When I was first in radio many, many moons ago, I've actually started my career at WLVG Radio up in Lawrence. I don't even think it's on the air anymore, unfortunately, and that's a shame. But that was where I cut my teeth, and they did birthdays and anniversaries. Thought it was kind of cool. You would announce them every day. It was like at 10 o'clock. And then went into the obituaries, which, of course, was what you had to do on a small AM station in a small town. Yep. You always had the birthday club and the obituaries that you had every day. I had an anniversary, and our rule, and I didn't realize this at the time, but our rule was just to say, hey, congratulations to Josh and Sarah celebrating their 10th anniversary. Don't say to Josh and Sarah Cohen, because I did that, and then I got a phone call a little bit later telling me, well, you realize those two aren't married. I was like, uh-oh. So I learned a lesson the hard way. First names only on the anniversary and birthday club.
If they're not married, what are they?
Well, that was the point. I don't want to get into the sort of seedy side of the coin, but I fear that like the guy was maybe dating this woman.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, they had other significant others.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was not good.
I wouldn't suspect that would happen very much in Columbia. That's more of a Lawrence County thing, I think.
Yeah. Oh, so wait a minute. So so this is like, all right. So Josh and Sarah are celebrating a 5th anniversary. Josh is celebrating his 5th anniversary with his wife Sarah, and his 3rd anniversary with his girlfriend Alice. Congratulations to the 3 of you.
So you can see why that might have been a problem. So yeah, learned a little lesson. So yeah, that I don't need to give out my phone number, but 888-898-2525 is the Sports Talk South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. You can learn more about the South Carolina Education Lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education wins. Playing for fun is a win for education. We'll hear from Dabo Sweeney. Just got done with his press conference following practice. We'll do that in just a couple of seconds, but you can also text us at 803-900-4847. And Josh, evidently we've got a text about programming tonight.
Yeah, I guess they really should be sending it to the program director, which I guess they are. I guess it's Smitty. I don't know. From the 803 great segment on baseball, especially in the middle of football season. Maybe tomorrow night a segment on tennis, and Friday a segment on polo. I was thinking maybe we could do a badminton, volleyball, soccer. Soccer is fine.
Thank you for texting the show, Bill Schoenblut.
Well, wait a minute. A soccer segment would fit in because soccer is in season, much like baseball is in season. You may not like baseball, but the reason we spent a good bit of time earlier, but I do like the tennis segment, Joe. Yeah. That's actually really funny. But the reason is Major League Baseball playoffs are going on, and the biggest story of the day, whether you like baseball or not, especially here in the Southeast, is the fact that America's team, certainly the southeastern part of the country's team, lost their manager today. Ryan Snicker has stepped away and will join the Braves in another capacity, and so there's an opening with the Atlanta Braves. Thought that was actually a pretty big deal today. Football season notwithstanding.
Yes, and look, again, you can put that on me because when I join the show, sometimes we do shake it up, and frankly, a lot of that is we do that purposefully. Because Phil's going to have his flavor, and then now you want him to come back so he can talk football for the next 2 hours tomorrow and recruiting.
I don't know,
or Friday.
I don't know about that. I have a bunch of comments coming through the YouTube and Facebook right now saying we don't like Phil. Smitty is great.
No, I know that's not true. But let me just retort. Listen. We love the interaction. We want you to text the show at all times, and
that's been a great addition to the show too. Having
absolutely
the availability of our listeners to text us.
Give us a hard time, but I will only push back in this way because he said our texter said, "What about a segment on tennis and then one on polo?" But just briefly, I will just defend this. Today, October 1st, the Red Sox are playing the Yankees, the Reds are playing the Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs are in action, in addition to the Braves manager stepping down. If you don't think that deserves a segment, that's fine. But I feel like that's defensible, that deserves a segment on Sports Talk. at the studio. Phil Kornblut is off tonight, but he will be back Friday. And, of course, he will be covering the game between Clemson and North Carolina in Chapel Hill this Saturday. So we encourage everybody to track that at SportsTalkSC.com. You'll get Phil Kornblut's story, post-game reaction. You'll get Coach Sweeney's post-game audio and more. I'll bet he'll load the Bill Belichick audio as well. So we can get all of that. Oh, this could be an interesting weekend. So Phil will be there on site in Chapel Hill. But tonight, tomorrow, you get us taking you through the world of sports. And I just wanted to hit quickly before we get to Coach Beck of Coastal Carolina. You might have heard Dabo Sweeney reference that he called it the 5-for-5 rule. And that is a proposal that's out there. And Coach Sweeney is in favor of it because he was talking about the potential of redshirting a player, getting through 4 games, and then having 4 left to play at the end of the year, and all these different things. So the 5-for-5 rule is a proposal that would allow athletes to play 5 seasons collegiately over a 5-year window. Currently, it's you get 5 for 4, 5 seasons to play 4, and so you can have a red shirt and things like that. But the issue that a lot of coaches are trying to simplify is now you have these red shirts where you still get 4 games of competition, and they're holding guys out, and the team is different at the end of the year than it is at the beginning of the year. And also with the transfer portal now, the way the rules are set up, you no longer have to sit out a year. So maybe just going 5-for-5 is the solution, according to these coaches. Now, I'd have to think more about it and dig into it, but their idea is let's get rid of the waivers. Let's not wait around and wait for the NCAA to make rulings. Just do 5. Give them a 5-year window, and if you get hurt one of the years, you get hurt one of those years. But you play as much as you can essentially in 5 years, and then you're done. It's more cut and dried than the system we have currently.
I think that's true. I don't think it would work, though, in the courts, because what you're going to end up doing, you're going to have a Rasul Faison situation where you want to be in college 6, 7, 8, 10 years, maybe not play all that time. But that's where they're going to have to really fine-tune and sort of hone in on, all right, you get 5 years to play. You can be in college for 9. But you only have 5 years to play. The letter of all of that ruling is going to have to be very specific, Smitty, and I just don't know that it's going to pass the sniff test, especially considering what we've seen from the NCAA. But I can understand why coaches want to go that route because it makes sense, and it certainly would make their job a lot easier knowing exactly, all right, I get a kid on campus, he's got 5 years to play, and then we're moving on. So
it makes one thing that makes a lot of sense is let's say you've got a game against an FCS opponent and you've got an opportunity to play some guys. You hear coaches say this, well, I don't want to burn their red shirt now. I was planning to use them at the end of the year. Maybe that's valuable for those players. I mean, maybe that's just – in other words, let's look at it from the student-athlete's perspective. Is that better – for the sport to have those guys play in the fourth quarter and get that burn right then and make their mistakes out there? I mean, I don't know if I'm in favor of this or not. I'm just pointing out this convoluted system where you get 4 games and you can still redshirt. I think this is where everybody is like, you're counting that, and then you're like looking at the transfer portal and you don't have to sit out anymore. So, why do you need the extra year anyway? And so I understand the movement and what you're pointing out is the NCAA's lawyers have to get better. They've been getting their brains beat in court, and they have to get better and they have to solidify these rulings and then pass them with the courts prior to enacting them, which the NCAA has been like for its last 8 years on winning court cases like that.
All right, before we wrap things up, a couple of moments with Tim Beck, head coach at Coastal Carolina, held his weekly press conference earlier today, chatting about Old Dominion. And here's what he had to say about the Chanticleers coming off the bye week and getting ready to travel to Norfolk on Saturday.
Yeah, just it was a good bye week for us. Just getting an opportunity to get a little bit healthy and get some rest and get a chance to self-scout us a little bit and get ready for a really good Old Dominion team.
Coach, you said after the win over South Alabama that you felt that there was a few small areas y'all needed to work on. What exactly were those small areas, and do you feel like you got to where you need to be over those 2 weeks or that last week and a half?
Yeah, our execution still isn't up to par. A little more offensively right now, and it's just it's a variety of things where it might be a route depth, it might be a split, right? The passing game is based on timing and spacing. The spacing of a route, the splits where guys are supposed to be, and then the timing, which is created by the quarterback and his drop, and the receivers by their route depth. And if either one of those two things are off, your passing game you're gonna be off. And so you see that, and you work on it, and you work to correct it, and then obviously you put a defense in front of it, and then all of a sudden the guy went inside, should have went outside. A guy went 8 yards instead of going 10 yards. A guy goes 14 yards instead of going 10 yards. And some of those things start to happen, and then you work on it, and the next week it's a different defense. Now it's man coverage. Well, now you got to snap that one off, and that's a little bit different now. And so it's a process in the growth in the passing game, and when you play a game every week, and you have to game plan for an opponent, sometimes it's hard to work on all those little details for yourself, because you also like, hey, now this is going in, you got to do this, and this is going in. So this gave us opportunities to, hey, let's just work this route, or let's work this concept, or let's do this. And so I felt like we were able to address some of those issues. Now, I call it in their bloodstream. Is it in their bloodstream enough that when all of a sudden the defense is in front of them and the pitchers move, can we execute at the level that we need to? It's to be unseen until it happens in the game. But I feel like we've addressed it and are working on that for sure.
That is Coastal head coach Tim Beck. His comments from earlier today at his weekly press conference. All of his audio up on our website at SportsTalkSC.com. And Smitty, I know most folks don't know much about Old Dominion. Gamecock fans may remember this was the team that almost upset USC to begin the season last year, and they have steadily improved since. And part of the reason is because they've got a dynamic quarterback in Colton Joseph, who not only is second in the Sun Belt in rushing yards per game at 92 yards a game as a quarterback. He's also first in total offense and leads the best offense in the Sun Belt, averaging 468 yards per game. And oh, by the way, they embarrassed Virginia Tech and Blacksburg, and they are probably the reason that Brent Pry is no longer the head coach up in Virginia Tech.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Brent Pry right now is somewhere cold, working out with a shirt, and he's got a newspaper clipping up on the mirror, Ivan Drago, Rocky IV style, but it's of Old Dominion dominating Virginia Tech. Because for him to get back in coaching, he's going to have to train hard, and he's got to overcome what the Monarchs did to him.
That's hilarious. And he'll have to, crinkle it up in his bare hands.
Yep.
And when he's ready with the full beard and ready to go back to work. But, yeah, they've played really well. That's going to be a big ball game on Saturday for Coastal and Old Dominion both. Sunbelt opener for the Monarchs, and it's game 2 of Sunbelt play for Coastal, trying to get to 2-0. All right, our thanks to Ellis Johnson, and for you folks for dialing us up. We will see you back here tomorrow for a Thursday. Mike Morgan will be here. It'll be some fun tomorrow for sure.